This is a man who walked with God. This is a man who was taken without dying. This is a name whispered in banned books and ancient scrolls. This is Pantheon mythology, and this is Enoch. The Bible doesn't give us much, just a handful of lines. Enoch lived, he walked with God, and then he was gone. No death, no grave, just vanished. But that silence only made the mystery grow. In forgotten texts and forbidden books, Enoch reemerges not just as a prophet, but as a messenger between heaven and earth, a scribe of judgment, and eventually something far more powerful than a man. And speaking of visions from beyond, if you too want to upgrade your journey into the unknown, you need to be well rested. And that's where today's sponsor, Manta Sleep, comes in. Manta Sleep makes the most comfortable 100% blackout sleep masks on the market. Designed not just for better sleep, but for deeper, more restorative rest, whether you're trying to dream like a prophet or just survive Monday morning. Their adjustable eye cups and breathable design will have you sleeping like the gods. Manta Sleep is leading the pro-nap movement because good sleep isn't just a luxury, it's essential. I use the Manta Sleep Mask Pro, and honestly, they're the closest thing to a heavenly ascent without leaving your bed. Head to mantasleep.com and use the code Pantheon at checkout, or click the link in the description for 10% off your entire purchase.
Enoch's story sits in the middle of Genesis like a crack in the foundation. Every name before him ends in death. So-and-so lived this many years and then he died is a rhythm, a pattern. But when it gets to Enoch, that rhythm breaks. He doesn't die, he doesn't fade. He's just taken. There's no explanation, no thunder, no chariot of fire, just a man who walked with God and then wasn't there anymore. The verse barely registers at first, but once you notice it, you can't stop thinking about it. Stranger still is how little we're told. There's no mention of his childhood, no stories of calling, no divine appointment. He appears in the text already chosen, already walking with God. It's as if his life was never entirely human to begin with. Even his lifespan is unusual. Enoch lived just 365 years. To us, that sounds ancient, but compared to his father, Jared, who lived 962 years, or his son, Methuselah, who reached 969, it's remarkably short. And yet some believe that number wasn't just short, it was symbolic. 1 year of days, a perfect solar cycle. Was Enoch's life a reflection of time itself, a sign of alignment with something greater? Later writers thought so. While Genesis says little, early Jews and Christians began to see more. Enoch became a figure of favor, even a keeper of hidden knowledge. And outside the Bible, that silence is filled. Other texts don't just explain where he went, they follow him. If Genesis only gives us a whisper, the Book of Enoch is a roar. Also known as 1 Enoch, this ancient text picks up where the Bible falls silent. It claims to be written by Enoch himself during his time among the angels, a record of what he saw, what he learned, and what he was told to pass on. This book was once widely read. Early Jewish communities studied it. Early Christian writers like Tertullian quoted it. Some scholars even believe it shaped the language of the New Testament, especially the book of Jude. And yet, 1 Enoch vanished from the canon. It was banned or quietly pushed aside, likely because of how boldly it speaks of angels taking human wives, secrets of the heavens, and an overwhelming divine judgment. Its contents were too strange, too dangerous, or maybe just too revealing. In the West, it was lost, but in Ethiopia, it was preserved. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church kept it as part of their scripture for centuries. In the 18th century, European explorers brought complete manuscripts back from the highlands, and in the 20th, fragments were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, proving it was well known in the Second Temple period. What makes the Book of Enoch so unusual is that it isn't just a single story. It's an anthology, a collection of 5 distinct writings filled with visions, dreams, angelic warnings, and revelations about time, judgment, and the architecture of heaven itself. Together, they form the most radical and otherworldly visions in all of ancient literature. The first of these writings begins with a fall, not of man, but of angels. Enoch is shown a time before the flood, when a group of heavenly beings known as the Watchers abandoned their place in the heavens and descended to earth. They were meant to observe, to remain apart, but instead they interfered. Led by a chief named Semyaza, they arrived on Mount Hermon and made a pact to take human women as wives. What followed was a corruption of both flesh and spirit. From these unions came the Nephilim, giants of immense size and appetite. They consumed all that the earth could give, then turned on the people themselves. The world fell into violence and ruin, but the damage was not only physical. The Watchers taught humanity forbidden knowledge, secrets never meant for mortal minds. They revealed the art of weapon making, the casting of enchantments, the reading of stars, and even the crafting of beauty. Knowledge that could have lifted humanity, instead became the source of its downfall. It is at this point that Enoch is called. He is chosen not to fight, but to speak, a mortal man sent as a messenger to confront angels. He's tasked with delivering God's judgment to the Watchers, telling them their fate is sealed. Their prayers will not be heard, their children will be destroyed, and they, who once stood in the light of heaven, will be cast into darkness. They are bound beneath the earth, held in silence, awaiting the final judgment. But for Enoch, this is only the beginning. The visions that follow will take him further, higher, and deeper than any mortal has ever gone. The next part of the text is known as the Book of Parables. It shifts the focus from rebellion and punishment to something even more profound: judgment. Enoch is no longer just observing the sins of angels and men. He is being shown the hidden structure behind justice itself, where every soul is accounted for and every action leaves its mark. He is taken into the heavens, into the court of the Most High, where the thrones are set and the righteous stand beside the rivers of fire. There, he sees the fate of kings and tyrants, those who ruled with arrogance and cruelty. In these visions, earthly power means nothing. Wealth, armies, empires, they dissolve like smoke. At the center of it all is a figure known only as the Son of Man. He is described as ancient yet human, glorious yet veiled. He does not conquer with violence, but with authority. His presence alone brings rulers to their knees. He is the one chosen to pass judgment on the wicked and to restore balance to a world that has fallen out of order. Enoch watches as the forgotten are lifted up and the corrupt are cast down. The oppressed are remembered and the arrogant are erased. These are not vague symbols or fleeting dreams. They are direct, unflinching revelations. For the first time, Enoch sees not just the past or the present, but the shape of justice as it is meant to be. After learning how the world is ordered, Enoch is shown how it unravels. In a series of vivid and symbolic dreams, he witnesses the rise and fall of humanity, not as a timeline, but as a vision filled with animals, landscapes, and signs. This section, known as the Book of Dreams, retells the story of the world using allegory. People become animals, nations become flocks, and behind it all, something watches. He sees the fall of angels once more, but this time as part of a much wider story. The birth of the Nephilim, The corruption of the earth and the great flood that follows all are presented as part of a cycle, one that repeats itself with new faces and familiar outcomes. Enoch watches generations rise and fall, the righteous struggle and the wicked prosper for a time before the balance shifts again. Some of what he sees is recognizable, some feels like prophecy, and some seems to reach beyond either, into something darker. These dreams do not stay in the past. They lean forward, into coming judgment, into upheaval, into the possibility that history is not finished. The final part of the text takes on a new tone. Enoch is no longer being guided, and he's no longer simply observing. He speaks directly now, with clarity and urgency. These are his final words, part farewell, part warning. This section, often called the Epistle of Enoch, reads like a letter written across time. It is addressed to those who think they are beyond consequence, the kings, the tyrants, the unjust. He speaks to them not in riddles, but in certainty. Their wealth will vanish, their power will fail, and what they built on cruelty will crumble. Judgment, he says, is not theoretical. It is coming. But this is not only a message of doom, it is also a declaration of hope. To the righteous, the ones who are overlooked, oppressed, or forgotten, Enoch offers reassurance. Their names are not lost. Their suffering is not wasted. A time will come when the scales are reset, and those who kept faith will be remembered. What makes this final section so striking is how different it feels from the rest. Enoch is no longer overwhelmed by visions or speaking through symbols. He writes with the weight of someone who has seen what others cannot, and returned to speak plainly. He is not just a witness anymore. He has become the one who warns, and he does so with the calm certainty of someone who already knows how the story ends. After delivering his final words, Enoch's journey continues, not back to earth, but higher, across the different texts that bear his name. His path leads deep into the structure of heaven itself. What he's shown goes beyond visions. He's taken through the hidden architecture of creation, led by angelic guides, and allowed to see what few mortals ever could. In some accounts, he's taken through 7 heavens, each one stranger than the last. The lower levels contain the stars, the winds, and the storehouses of natural forces, snow, hail, fire, and mist. But as he ascends, he passes through realms of increasing brilliance, each filled with hosts of angels singing, serving, or watching in silence. He sees the tree of life, glowing and eternal, planted at the center of paradise. He sees the place where the righteous await their reward, a realm of light and blessing. But he also sees the dark side of this order, the prisons of the watchers, locked in eternal confinement, crying out with no answer. He's shown the fiery abyss, the dwelling places of fallen souls, and the mechanisms by which the wicked are judged. He is given knowledge of the celestial calendar, of how the sun and moon move through gates in the sky. He learns how time itself is tracked and measured, how cycles of the year are woven into the fabric of creation. Angels are assigned to record the deeds of men, to carry prayers, to deliver punishment. Everything has its place. Enoch is not a guest in these realms. He's a witness with a purpose. He's shown the angelic hierarchies, the thrones of judgment, and the faces of those who stand closest to the throne of the Most High. In some versions, he even speaks with the archangels, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, who explain the things he sees, and sometimes warn him of what is still to come. This is not a single moment, but a journey that stretches beyond time. He moves through the heavens not as a man lost in wonder, but as someone being prepared. Every step forward is a step closer to transformation, because Enoch is not just being shown the secrets of heaven, he's being brought into them. After passing through the heavens, Enoch changes. The man who once walked with God does not return. According to 3 Enoch, he is taken before the highest throne, where the veil is lifted, and his identity begins to dissolve. The transformation is not gentle. It is violent, overwhelming, and absolute. He is stripped of his earthly garments of flesh and bone and remade in glory. His body is expanded to unimaginable size, his frame stretching across the known universe. His flesh becomes fire, his bones turn to light, his veins flow with flame. His voice splits into thousands, echoing across the heavens with every word. His eyes shine like the sun, and his crown is set with the names of 70 rulers of heaven. No longer Enoch. He is renamed Metatron. In this new form, he is given titles unlike any other. Lesser Yahweh, the only being said to reflect the power and authority of God himself. He is the Prince and Divine Presence, the Angel of Countenance. He becomes the celestial scribe, recording every thought, every word, every action in the Book of Life. He's entrusted with divine secrets and placed beside the throne, a privilege forbidden to even the greatest archangels. Only Metatron may sit. His role is not passive. He commands legions of angels, speaks with the authority of the throne, and serves as a mediator between the heavenly court and creation. In some accounts, he is so radiant, so terrifying in form, that when angels first see him, they fall down in fear, mistaking him for God himself. It takes a voice from the Most High to remind them, this is not the Creator, this is Enoch. But Enoch is gone. What remains is something else. No longer human, no longer prophet. He has become the bridge between what is mortal and what is beyond. Fire, light, memory and power give a name and a place in the order of all things. He is Metatron, and he is not coming back. Enoch's journey doesn't end with his transformation. It echoes outward, far beyond the texts that first told his story. Across cultures and centuries, he reappears, changed, reimagined, but never forgotten. In Islam, Enoch is often identified with the prophet Idris, a figure described as trustworthy, patient, and exalted. The Quran speaks briefly but powerfully of him, stating that Idris was raised to a high place. It doesn't describe what he saw, what he became, or why he was chosen, only that he was taken. Much like Enoch, the story is defined as much by what is unsaid as what is revealed. In Ethiopia, Enoch never vanished. His writings are not considered fringe or forbidden, they are canon. The Book of Enoch is preserved in its entirety within the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, read alongside other biblical texts. To this day, it is treated not as speculation but as revelation, offering insights into angels, judgment, and the mysteries of heaven that others locked away. But Enoch's presence stretches further still. In Gnostic texts, he is the one who ascends to recover secret knowledge. In the Kabbalah, he is the master scribe and celestial intermediary. In modern occult circles, he becomes something more, linked to angelic languages, magical systems, and hidden wisdom. Some see him as the first mystic, others the original magician, the man who walked with God and returned bearing knowledge too heavy for most to carry.
So who was Enoch? A man who walked with God and vanished. A prophet who spoke with angels and judged them. A mortal who stepped beyond the veil and returned as something else. His story is a fracture in the pattern, a name that refuses to stay buried. Not quite a man, not quite an angel, not quite a god. He saw how the heavens move, how time is kept, how judgment falls. He spoke with the keepers of creation and stood beside the throne. And if the texts are to be believed, he still stands there, watching, recording, waiting. Because if Enoch became Metatron, and Metatron still writes, then perhaps the book is not closed. Perhaps it never was.